If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and this week our special guest is Bryan Mansell from Kazeel. We'll come to Bryan in a second. So what is the UK Property Market Stat Show? Well, the UK public are obsessed about the property market, and we follow the Land Registry and Nationwide and Halifax indexes, looking tracking house prices and what's happening in the property market. Problem is, the Land Registry is looking at data from 6, 7, 8 months ago. The Halifax and Nationwide from 2 or 3 months ago. We're looking at last week. We're going to look at house prices. We're going to look at the number of homes coming on the market, the number of homes selling, the number of homes being reduced, to enable us to find out exactly what's happening in the UK property market. So buckle up for the next hour and you'll find out exactly what's happening in the UK property market. The show is roughly split up into two. The first half looks, as I said, at the UK, and then the second half, we focus on a town or a city. And this week, we are going to the beautiful town of Stevenage in Hertfordshire. Now, if you're not from Stevenage, you might switch off from that. That's totally your choice. But what I would say is this. We're going to be doing an analysis, a bit like a Rightmove Plus report on steroids, of all the agents in Stevenage. So, and we're going to be using a piece of kit which enables us to find out who is the best estate agent. So if you're an estate agent and you're finding it really hard with overvaluing or low fees, and you really are a good agent, then we're going to be using a piece of kit, a piece of software, an independent piece of software, which will prove which estate agents are the better ones in Stevenage. And if you are as good as you think you are, you could use this same software in your own town to beat overvaluing and to beat cheap fees. As I said, this week, is week 30, which is Monday, the 22nd of July, all the way through to and including Sunday, the 28th of July. And as I said, this week, I'm joined by Bryan Mansell. Bryan Mansell used to be huge in the game at Countrywide, when Countrywide were a force to be reckoned with, where you used to quake in your boots. And he was a big area director, regional boss, whatever title he had. But basically, in my eyes, he was the main man. He now runs a firm called Kazeel, which helps estate agents, more importantly, homeowners and home sellers and buyers to secure their sale, to get fall-through rates down into single digits. We will be going on to fall-through rates later in the program. Bryan, thanks for coming back on the show. It's been a couple of months since I saw you on the show.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for having me back again. Obviously, I'm behaving better as we go, so that's why I'm getting invited back, which is always good. I know I can be a bit controversial sometimes, but no, in a good mood, and had a good look at the stats, and it's good to be back, mate. Good to be back.
Good stuff. Right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the first half of the show, where we're going to go and look at the Stadarunis. So here we go. As always, we start with the listings. I'll just go through the numbers and then Bryan can give his analysis. So just want to check, Bryan, you've got the bar chart there with the graph on. That's fantastic.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, so this week we have listed 33,792 properties. Just to give you a flavour, last week it was 33,400, the week before 34,800, and the week before that 34,679. And you can see that here with the white line in the graph. So the white line that you can see on the graph now is the number of weekly listings. You will see that there is 3 dips, and the first dip is always the Easter dip. And you can see different years with the different colors on the graph there. If you're listening to this on the podcast, then you can download the graphs. You can actually download all the graphs, ladies and gentlemen. If you go to the YouTube channel that you're watching this video on, and in the description, the graphs are available to download. And likewise, if you're listening to this on the podcast, they're available in the write-up. What I would say to you is that all the graphs can be used at your valuations and internally. I'm more than happy for you to show them to your vendors. But all I do ask is that you don't publish them. The reason being is that my daytime job is I'm a property economist, and I've got to hold something back for my clients. And these are the sort of stuff that some of them use. So the white line, the first dip is the Easter. Then we've got a couple of bank holiday Mondays, which again always affects the listings market. And then we're now on a slow, steady drift down throughout the July and August, with a little dip coming at the end with the August bank holiday. Year to date, we are on 1,061,000 listings, which is 7.4% further on than last year at 988, and 6.9% further on than the averages of 17, 18, and 19 combined. The average asking price of a property that's come on the market is £420,000. We'll be analysing that in a little bit more detail later. What's your thoughts on listings, Brian?
Well, my thought on listings is super encouraging. The stats say everything, don't they? The devil is in the detail. But, to summarize this whole show today, to me, having looked through the numbers beforehand, before the show, this is all about inventory management. To me, looking through all the stats, including, as you'll come on to, the sales stats of properties, the fall throughs and price changes and so on and so on, the message here is managing your clients, managing the stock will be the difference between success and greater success later on in the year. And I think I'm always fascinated by the graph you're showing here, because year after year after year in normal markets, we have this dip at this time of the year as we head into August, which always surprises me, because actually, the statistics normally of people that are away on holidays, so summer holidays and so on, is quite low in terms of people leaving the country. But I appreciate that those of you that have children, including me, with the summer holidays now upon us, the last thing you want to do when you're trying to get the kids organised for the summer holidays is have people traipsing around your house. But I'm always surprised the numbers are that low, because it's the ideal time of the year, with the weather being potentially better, to people having less time, a little bit more time available. It always strikes me as this almost the perfect period of time now to move.
And isn't it amazing now? And we've got we purposely removed the strange years of 20, 21, and 22.
Yeah.
Simply because they were strange years. But isn't it amazing that there is almost an identical pattern throughout all the years? And I know we say this most weeks, and we've been doing this show now for nearly 2 years. It always follows a pattern that it takes off in January, and then quite high in Q1, which is just around here. Then we have the roller coaster dips of Easter and bank holidays, and then a slight drift off down to Easter, where we have a bump up, drop, bump back up again, and then drifting off throughout October and November, into Christmas.
I'm really pleased to see as well that clearly the election didn't have much impact on the market. There was a lot of people commentating in the industry that everything was going to slow down and people were going to not do anything until the election was over. But I don't think that happened this year at all, certainly by the indication.
No, we're going to look at sales in about 5 minutes, and there has been a slight uptick, and we'll show you the Starmer. I don't think it's a Boris bounce.
No.
But there's a slight ski lift up on sales this week. But again, just one swallow doesn't make a spring, as my nan used to say. Yeah. Okay, let's move on and look at price reductions. So this week we have price reduced 22,577 properties, which means we are reducing on average 1 in 7.32 homes per month at the moment, based on the stock levels we have. And we'll just have a quick look at stock levels now whilst we're talking about that. So this is the number of properties that are currently for sale at the end of each month. So we are still at the end of June. We haven't got the end of July figures yet, because we're filming this on Tuesday the 30th. She'll be coming out on Thursday, Friday this week. So we'll be getting those stats in the next show. But so all the yellow lines are the end of June stats, okay? And as you can see here, we're nowhere near the May or 21 and May 22 stock levels, but we are very, very similar to the levels that we were seeing in end of June 18, which is here, and end of May, very, very similar. And just to give you some context, the number of properties that were on the market for sale in the summer of 2008 was 1.4 million. Okay, so let's not don't no one panic here, or that any of you do-mongers out there that like to just spot anything like scrap saying, oh, it's the end of the world. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, there's a bit of data for you later in the show which you might be able to jump on, you do-mongers out there, because there's a slight issue with sale fall-throughs at the moment, but we'll come to that in a second. But again, just keeping an eye on that is really important. Right, what's your and just
Can you just go back to the, sorry, Chris, go back to the, that's it there. So
that
have you
one?
got the number of price reductions, the physical number that have been done, the number of stock, the amount of stock that's actually been reduced rather than the cash amount?
Okay, so it was 22,577. Remembering there's 700,000 houses for sale at the moment, which works out at 1 in 7.32 homes per month if we had the same weekly figure for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. So you've got
I mean,
23,577 properties that have had their price altered in the week that we've talked about in week 30 from 700,000 properties that are for sale.
yeah, to give you an idea, we were running in 2017, we were running at reductions of about 6.2, sorry, one property reduction for every 6.2 homes. It was 6.7 in 2018 and it was 8 in 2020. So we're not reducing huge amounts here. If that was at like 4 or 5, then the price reductions would be really high. They look high, but remember, we're talking different stock levels here.
They're not high enough, is the point.
Say again?
They're not high enough. That's
They're
the
not high
point.
enough. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
I probably
So
should have said
there's
that a
not
bit
enough.
better. Dino,
No,
not
I'll
getting
do
on with
that
that.
bit. You've got to be Switzerland. I don't have to be. So they're not high enough. I mean, we always used to work on a basic business strategy of each week, month, whatever, that a minimum of 10% of your stock needs to be changed to keep your sale numbers high and keep your customers moving, keep the market rolling, as we used to say. And so when you're talking about what 3-4% without off the top of my head, from 700,000, it's not enough. And the challenge that people are going to have with this is that you're going to have people hanging off, making offers and stuff like that because prices might be in their minds too high, and that's stalling the market. And secondly, as an agency business, you're just going to have a continuation of the cost of marketing a property until at some point it achieves a buyout and then a sale. So if you're starting the sale later by not adjusting the price quickly enough, then you're just pushing the can down the road or kicking the can down the road of profitability and growth. So, we've said this before on shows. I know I certainly have, because it's extremely important. It's very difficult to list a house initially at a price you think it's going to sell for because you just don't know. But certainly 2 weeks in, you should have a much better idea if actually your marketing has worked and your negs have picked up the phone and rung buyers and you've had viewings and so on and so on. But the business strategy from a normal market position, and we've seen the graphs that show that, is that really you should be looking at nothing less than 10% being down, being adjusted, corrected to achieve a sale faster.
I mean, what is particularly interesting, I've just looked up a stat as you were kindly talking there, Brian, and as I said, we've got just over 1 million properties that we have listed between the 1st of January up until the end of July. What is also interesting is that we've had 455,000 price reductions. Yeah, sounds a lot, but
That's the listing numbers
that's
from
the listing
January.
numbers.
So if you
Now,
add
now
if
you
you
got to remember,
add those to the stock that was carried over into 2024, and
yeah.
then you apply your 422,000 changes, that's fine. The changes are fine, but as we've said, if you're satisfied for what you're asking for, you're not asking for enough. So anyone can take something down by 5 grand, 10 grand, but is that actually going to get the property into a place where it's going to achieve regular and consistent interest, i.e., buyer bids?
And and I agree with you. There's nothing actually wrong with overvaluing as long as you do something with it and realize it's amazing. We've in the show in the past we've seen agents where, because what we're going to in the later when we look at Stevenage is we're going to look at which agents work their stock, which overvalue, because we've got metrics on these, and which actually sell. And there was I think it was in Southend. There was one agent who was like a blatant overvaluer, but his price reductions were really high and his exchange to listings ratio was really high, which showed that even though he or she was overvaluing, they were working their stock and they were getting properties sold. It's these corporates and large firms or independents that don't have the balls to do it with the salami slice. If you're going to put it on and it don't sell, then don't start taking 5 grand off. You've
No.
got, I know we say it every week, don't we, Bryan? But I just wish people listen. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I know you know this stat, Bryan, but you've got to remember that for every 100 homes that UK agents are putting on the market at the moment, you are only exchanging contracts on 52 or 53% of them.
If you're lucky.
That's the current stats at the moment nationally, around between 52 and 53. I was babysitting some Australian estate agents, and their ratio of, I know it's not called exchange, but we'll call it exchange, was bad was considered 80%.
Yeah, but they don't have chains, Chris. So we've long in this island of ours had people showing us how great Australian agents are and so on and so on, but it's not comparative.
Okay, but still, yeah, at the end of the day, I know the legal system is different. The magic thing is this: they aim to sell get paid on 9 out of 10
Ah,
homes.
and that is the right attitude. There's no two ways about it. But I think it's easy to say, that their sale rate is 80%, and that's great. Ours would be higher if we didn't have chains and people waiting to find, waiting to sell, and so on and so on. It's a different market, but I get the point. The attitude is absolutely spot on.
Good stuff. Right, let's now move on and look at sale agreeds. So, hold on, let's just go back. Just hold on, there we go. Okay, so we should see the graph. Right, let's just bring that back. Here we go. So, sale agreeds this week is 25,820. Just to give you an idea, last week it was 24.3, the week before 24.7, the week before 24.8, and the week before that 26. The average price of a property selling is 358. Year to date, we are on 740,934 gross sales, which is 11% more than the 23 figure and 6.6% further on than the average of 17, 18 or 19. And look there, look, there's that little uplift there, mate. That is your Starmer bounce or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you slalom.
I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to do that but isn't it interesting? The red line here was the red line is 20. No, it's 2020. My apologies. We haven't got the Boris bounce, but the Boris bounce wasn't as proficient as you think it was.
No, but I think there's another stat at play here that you've missed. You haven't missed, sorry, you've got, but we haven't talked about. If you go back to the beginning and look at pricing, right, the initial pricing of property, and actually, if you look at 2024 versus the comparative markets, actually, there's some really positive signs there. I think at the very beginning, one of your early slides, your second or third slide, I think.
What, that one?
No, up one. No, come down. That's it, that one there, that one. Go back. Up one. That's it, this one. Average listing price at 420.8. Compare that to 2022, 432. Lessons are beginning to look like we've been learning from them.
Okay, so this might be an appropriate time to bring in these graphs here. So this is the red line is the average listing price going back. This is going back to Jan 23. And it's on a week by week basis. So the red line is the average listing price. The pink line, color blindness today. Orange line is the average sale agreed price. Now that's the asking price of the property when it went sale agreed. We don't know what the property sold for. However, there is data. Hampton's produced data and have done since 2006, where they measure the average asking price and the average sale agreed price later on, and that figure is never more than 2% lower, apart from the boom of 2021 where it was 2% over. But normally, it's between 1% and 2% below. So what we're looking now, you could say, why is there quite a difference? Why is there a 70 grand difference? For anyone that's not watched the show before, lower price properties have a greater chance of selling, which means that the average price of those that do sell will be dragged down because the lower price properties have a greater propensity to sell. What we're looking here is the gap between, and the average over the last 7 years is 16 or 17%. This week we're at 17%. We were getting these sort of figures up to 20% earlier in late spring, which was causing slight palpitations. Just again, I know we've done this, but I expect to see this. This jump here is everyone putting their homes on the market in London. That is the effect of the London market. London property market, central London, your Chelseas, your Fulhams, and your Kingstons. They will. It's like a ghost town in August. No one does any business, hardly sells any properties, and then all of a sudden everyone just comes back once they've been to Provence and dumps their houses on the market, and that is the effect of that. And again, this is just Brian. This is again just those same information just put onto the same graph. That's of interest. So the green color is the average asking price of the listings on a standalone week, and the turquoise is the average asking price of a property sale agreed. Yeah. Anything else on gross sales, mate?
No, I think it's consistent. I mean, I said at the very beginning, having looked at these prior to coming on, to me, like I always do, I look at these as if they were my own figures from the businesses that I've been fortunate to be involved in, and what message would I give across, and that is stock management. I mean, you've got a lot of favorable wins in our sales at the moment. We've got the economists have revised their predictions for an early rate cut compared to what they were originally thought. Over 60% of analysts are now suggesting it's going to be sooner rather than later. That's jumped by 20% because it was 40% of analysts a couple of weeks ago. So that's really positive. Still underlying inflation issues, not the headline inflation, but the employment and so on and so on. So there's still a few things that may stop that. But actually, I think that we're looking likely now at a rate cut, which is obviously why certain lenders have started to come out in a bit of a war. I think I read yesterday as the first sub 5% or 4%.
Sub 4, I think it was Nationwide.
Sub 4 from NatWest or Nationwide that's come out. That's really great. That's really, really encouraging. And that should, if you're cute about it and you're thinking about moving and particularly buying on, now is the window. Because if you can get in and get a good mortgage deal at 3.5, 3.9, whatever percent, and then we get a cut, you might see a bounce in prices again. So if you'll have a very small window between the two events of grabbing a bit of not a bargain per se, but getting a better deal.
Good stuff. Great insight.
So that's why getting your stock right now is absolutely critical. I'm not thinking we'll wait until after August when everyone's on holiday, or the people that are in the business are going away on holiday for a few weeks. That shouldn't mean the business stops doing its strategy. If the leader's away or the manager's away, well, then the next person takes over the same task. But the task doesn't stop because someone's on holiday. And it is really, really important right now in this window, this small window that exists, to get the stock at the right levels price-wise, and we should see sales begin to really, really motor going through the next few months into the end of the year and give everyone a fabulous 2025.
Have you got some top tips on how to get price reductions from vendors?
I've always had top tips for doing that. Revisit your properties, take the time to go and see them. Definitely provide people with a full market report on people that have viewed and haven't viewed. What are the comments? What are the feedback? The feedback is always from someone who views a house, it's too expensive, or I've found another one cheaper. The message, price sensitive feedback is vital. Not they really liked it but didn't like the color of your kitchen. That doesn't help anybody. As a business, your job is to move somebody, right? That's what they're asking you to do. To do that, they need to get advice, and that advice sometimes isn't always really nice. It's tough conversations. It's what negotiation's about. But people want you to move them. If you tell someone enough times that the reason their house isn't selling is because the market is not allowing it to move at that price, then eventually, if they're motivated and committed to moving, they will make an adjustment because they'll want to move forward. But if you don't give them that feedback, or you give them other feedback, then you're going to prolong this process and actually make it harder for people to actually achieve a move, which is what they're asking you to help them do.
Which is our job, isn't it? And again, when you've got a flip of a coin, heads or tails, whether you're going to move or not, you're putting all that effort in, and you're only going to be paid on, just over 50%. I mean, in London, it's nearer 30%. But anyway, let's move on. Price structure. Fall throughs. Fall through rates are, as you can see, ignore the spike, the dips down they're the Christmas ones, so that we're looking at the general trend. Now, I'll just go back. Sorry, hold on. So we were having 8,000 or 9,000 weekly fall throughs in the There's something happening in quarter three of 2022. Was there a budget of some kind? Truss.
There was some conservative
Yeah.
private
So that up there was there. So that was the Kwarteng fallout. Then we got obviously it fell off because of Christmas. Then we were around the 5,000 mark. We were up at 6.5, and then we dipped down. She's been increasing slightly, but again, it was sorry about this. We are now hitting just under 7,000, which does, again, those of you that like your doom mongering, that is starting to get slightly concerned. However, we've got more sales, so we're going to have more fall throughs. Okay, so this is, in my humble opinion, a better stat. This is the number of fall throughs in the week expressed as a percentage of the number of gross sales. Now, again, we have hit this week. I'll just pull up the stats. Hold on. We have hit 26.66. The long-term average is 24.8. Just there you go. There you go, 24.28. Sorry, my apologies. So, we're not, it's nothing to worry. We have to keep an eye on this one, don't we?
Well, you always have to, absolutely. I mean, especially as there are, no one in this industry likes working for free.
I mean, what I would say, Brian can't say this, but there are such things as reservation agreements. And again, Brian, you can't say anything because obviously we can't turn this into an advert, but I can say this. Reservation agreements are where you can tie in the buyer and the seller, and you can yes, if the property falls, if the chain collapses or there's a problem with survey, you've got get out of jail cards. But the simple fact is this: is that it ties a buyer and a seller, and you don't have those pratty conversations where they fall out over a plant pot a week before exchange of contracts. Yeah. Because of and let's be honest, the agents watching this, we've had sale fall through for less than plant pots. Sale fall through rates in single digits, ladies and gentlemen. Brian's firm Gazelle does them, but what I would say, other firms are available. There's about 4 or 5 in the UK. Don't mix them up. You'll be amazed how many people mix up reservation agreements and modern method of auction. One. Is it just one?
No, we're number one. I was just saying, sorry.
Okay.
The thing is, Chris, on this, right, is the decision that you've got when you're moving somebody is to provide them with the right advice and hopefully get that across in a way that people understand that you're the expert, not them, because they only do this once every 15, 20 years. You're doing this every minute of the day. Therefore, by definition, you are the expert, you're the professional. So if you have tools, and I'm not just talking about fall throughs, I'm talking about everything else, the tools that you have available, if your business has not got the processes in place to analyze those tools and understand where they fit in, because it's not a case of, shoving everything down the throat of your seller the day you meet them. It's about introducing things at the right time of their journey. Well, then you should give people the option for both if they're selling and if they're buying, and let them decide, if they want to make a commitment to each other. It just so happens that if they do that, there's a much better chance that they will move safer, less risk, which is what everybody wants. But obviously the net benefit is then to the business and the individuals that are in the agents that are trying to transfer these titles.
100% agree. Anyway,
do nothing and go out there, and then the same problems will always be there, which is you don't have a value to pitch. So what you end up doing is you pitch the cost proposition, and then you have to go high on the price to give people the thought that if they sell with you, they make a lot of money. So they go with you. Then you put the property in the market. You struggle to get the property down. You don't sell it very often. It withdraws, goes to another agent who get the reduction, get the sale, make the money, and you've worked for free, and then you're out of business at some point. I mean,
Brian, it's hot off the press. Okay, the length of time a property takes to sell has a massive difference on whether the sale falls through. Mm-hmm. Now, you've not heard these stats, but here we go. I'm going to give you, right. If a property sells within 25 days, it'll have a fall through. Its chance of falling through is 6%.
Okay.
If a property takes more than 100 days to sell, and it has a 44% chance of falling through.
Okay. But isn't it fair to say that 68% of stats are rubbish?
These are no. Okay. So basically every sale that went through in Q2 or that took place in Q2, by 20 EA, which means there's about 250,000 sales here. Okay. Property that sells in under 25 days has a 6% chance of falling through. A property that sells within 2 months has a 13% chance of falling through. A property that sells within 3 months, 22% falling through. A property that sells within 4 months, 26% chance of falling through. And if it takes more than 5 months or more, has a 44% chance. If there's nothing that proves that you've got to keenly price the property from day one,
There you go.
that is the stat.
Yeah.
Mrs. Miggins, if you overvalue the property and it takes 4 months to find a buyer, if we do sell it, you've got a 4 in 10 chance of this sale falling through. If we put this house on the market at a realistic price, you've got a 1 in 16 chance of the sale falling through.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
powerful stats.
there you go. That's what we've been talking about, isn't it? Get the price right. Everybody wins.
Indeed. Right. So let's do net sales, such as gross sales less fall throughs for the week. The white line is this year, the pink line is 2023, and the orange line is 17 to 19.
That yellow line, Chris, looked like my interest levels in the Euros watching England.
You can see here that the net sales, they again will be drifting in a slightly downward direction, a dip down always for Easter bank holiday. Yeah, I mean, and to say that, okay, let's be honest, 2020 was a silly year, but to say that you were only a couple of thousand off 22 and 21, that's not bad, is it?
No, it's not. It's good.
Not bad.
Full market.
You know, look, 18.9 versus 15, look, this is not bad at all. Interestingly, gross sales are further on than 17, 18, or 19, but because the fall throughs are slightly higher at the moment, we're just slightly below on net sales. So, but we've had a good run. So we're at 104.5% further on than 17, 18, or 19 because we had a good run at the start, which meant 24 was ahead of the 17, 18, or 19 figure. Yeah, anything on this? I mean,
No, it's no, not really. I think, there, dare I say it again, the industry and those that work within it have the opportunity, if they've got the cojones, to actually change those stats themselves. We talked before, and other guests of yours have talked about, making your own market and so on and so on. It's absolutely true. If you are prepared to really look at what you do, how you pitch, how you speak about, particularly about pricing, and help people that are coming to market needing to find somewhere, rather than just focusing on their bloody house, focus on the people, help the people in their journey, because that's what they're asking you to do. Part of that is selling their house to enable them to have the funds to move on with their life, but actually helping them find somewhere as well is going to help you with this whole process of getting prices at the right level to help people move, to motivate them, keep them motivated. If we can do that, we can change the graph as an industry. We don't have to sit and let it bob on the tide of the market. And
yeah, because this is the UK property market. You're not dependent on that. You can make, and if you can get, as Brian said, is if you can get your prices realistically priced in August, you might be able to get them away. And hey, if you've got some decent solicitors, you might be able to get them exchanged and completed before Christmas, which means you'll have a good Christmas bonus commission. Or if you don't, then at least you're setting yourself up for a nice payday in early 25. But as Brian rightly says, it's all about the stock and stock management. That's your job. Just because you've listed, and again, I wind a lot of valuers up. I am of the opinion that valuers should do their own vendor contact and take responsibility for the vendor management, not leaving it to little floss. You put the bloody house on the market, and if you overvalued it, you get the price down. I know you might, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but that's just.
Well, we've had that conversation before. To me, ultimately, if you've got a negotiator that's had lots of viewings on the property, sparked up a really strong relationship with the seller, then there's an argument to say maybe they're the ones, because they're hearing the feedback from the buyer the whole time, that should be having that conversation with feedback that they're giving. I don't see it being compartmentalized any other way. It's always the best person who has the best, or the person who has the best relationship with the customer.
I'll give you that.
Likely to persuade them to do the right thing. But in the absence of that, if you've got order takers just literally chucking viewings through the front door and then, giving random feedback, then the responsibility falls on the principal person who brought it to the market. The challenge you have in many cases there is, of course, they've gone out and spewed out a whole load of, rose-tinted spiel about the market, and everything's great and the price is great and we're great and so on and so on. And then to go back and have a conversation that is countenance to that is sometimes difficult for them to do, so they don't. And then the house just sits in the market. Inevitably, what will happen is it will pass its 100 days. As you've rightly said, the risk of it collapsing later on is massive. But the bigger risk is someone getting disillusioned with that agency and then going somewhere else.
You're not even selling
And
it.
that will sell.
There you go. Couple of graphs that we keep in just for you, Brian and Ian McKenzie, because you're ex-Countrywide. You like these particular graphs. Anything here that you want to ask about this or say?
No, no, not that hasn't already been said before.
Good stuff. Right. Okay. Again, just for people's benefit, this is the number of properties in agents' sales pipelines, unit numbers. The yellow lines are all end of June because we haven't got the July figures in yet. So, and again, to say that the pipelines are 100,000 more than what they were in 17, 18 or 19. And yes, some people are going to say, well, is that because sales are taking longer? Sales were taking 17, 18 weeks before COVID. This is not a new phenomenon. Can't say that word.
That's a £2 billion cash pipeline, right? If
Yeah.
my maths are right. If you assume an average agency fee of 3.5, then you're talking about 1.7, 1.8 billion of money sitting there, and people, more importantly, people sitting there whose move has not yet got to where it needs to get to. So, second part of what you need to manage, you manage the front with the inventory and you manage the back with the assets.
I mean, what's particularly interesting, I had a very interesting chat with someone who runs a network of around 50 branches. And I was saying, and I said, do you outsource your sales progression? And he said no, because we had interactions where the branch were blaming the sales progressors. Although interestingly, there's a lot of firms out there that outsource their sales progression to sales progressors, and they get their sales through even with the whole chain when not everyone's using them in 11 or 12 weeks. I mean, there's plenty of other stuff that agents can be doing, like getting pre-contract packs. I think just valuers are just conscious that they don't want to put barriers in the way of getting the house on the market. That's why a lot of valuers are anti-reservation agreements, because they think they have to try and persuade the vendor to do it. No, it's a great way to get the property on the market. And if you've got a great sales progressors and you can prove you get your sales through quicker, again, that's a great way to get more listings and not pull your pants down on your fees, which are what agents do. Here's a graph. So this one here, the magic line is the orange line, and the orange line is the average pound per square foot at sale agreed. And why is that important? The reason that's important, ladies and gentlemen, is if you match that to the land registry in 5 or 6 months' time, the percentage changes match almost identically. So that's why I'll keep banging on about pound per square foot. So just to make you aware, the land registry between June 2024 and January 25, the difference will be 5 or 6%, subject to nothing black swan events happening to you now and then. Just telling you here and now, Brian. You heard it here first. Well, I said it last week, but there you go.
I heard it last week as well, because I heard it a few
Of course it is, but I'll keep banging on about pound per square foot as a great way to future measure what's going to happen to the land registry. So therefore, we know where the market starts to grow a couple of months in advance, and we know if there's a top of the market, we know if it's dropping. So it's a great way.
It's funny because the pound per square foot was a key metric used for appraisals in central London, because where you've got a lot of similar property, that tends to be the some of the differentiators on square foot. What is the square footage of the property in comparison to the identical one next door? And sometimes that is a good mechanism to use that. And of course, developers use it all the time.
I fight because my data, this, but some of the viewers might not. My daytime job, the one that pays the wages, is that I'm a ghostwriter writing articles about local property markets, and then agents then publish that under their own name, because again, 36% of vendors chose their estate agent based on their local property market knowledge. So if you look at most agents' social media, you wouldn't actually talk about the property market, which is weird. Basing it on a town by town basis, it's very staccato. I wouldn't judge it. I wouldn't judge a property market locally on pound per square foot in terms of house price direction. It's always good to have a look. But I think nationally, there's so many numbers, it does match the land registry quite nicely. Here's a nice little graph, just the number of properties for sale at the end of June in 24 versus June 23. And interestingly, outer London, so what's inner London? N, NW, SE, SW, W, and E. That's inner London, and then outer London is everything else up to the, like, up to the
Up to the
M25.
M25, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I thought that there are 14% fewer houses now. So Northern Ireland, they're a bit behind on their listings as well on stock number of properties for sale, but everywhere else is an uplift. So again, if you're, in your southwest, there's nearly 20% more homes for sale today than there was a year ago. So that's a great way to actually show what's happening in the property market and prove that you need to get your properties on at the right price. Anything else before we go
I
to?
think, Chris, it goes back to what we said at the very beginning: inventory, manage your clients, manage your stock, look at that forensically, have the drains up on it. If the simple way we used to do this, and I've never seen a better way, is you're looking at this on a weekly basis, right? During the last week, what activity have we had on each of our properties? And therefore, you'll have, 30, 40, 50 properties, whatever it is that you've got, more now than you had last year. You're looking at those, and your indication is, right, what is our marketing efforts in the last 7 days? What results have they produced? If you had 50 products that your business was trying to sell to in retail, you would be looking at that on a daily basis. What is the success rate? What interest have we got? How many leads have come in on that property or on that product? Have we converted that into buying leads? But we don't do that with estate agents. Estate agents don't look at it like this. They just think, what have we sold this week? What offers have we got? What viewings have we got? But look at it on every single property, every single week, and then take remedial action based on the results. If you've got lots of viewings, lots of feedback, property's got some bids, leave it alone. It's obviously going in the right direction. If it's not had any interest, online, offline, physical, whatever, then you need to do something about it, because the chances are next week going to be the same.
Isn't it fascinating? When I was babysitting those Australians, they talked to their vendors twice, if not once was daily, but was twice a week.
Yeah.
While in the UK, if you get a vendor contact call from Floss once a month, that's considered good. It's not good enough, is it?
No, nowhere near. We fall very short in terms of how we manage the management of stock. Generally speaking, there obviously are always exceptions to that, but generally speaking, it's pretty poor.
Right, Brian. That's the end of the first part of the show. What we'll now do is we'll go to Stevenage and have a look. Okay, Brian, I know you're used to this, but anyone that's not watched this, we are using a piece of kit called Insight, and it's from the firm 20EA. 20EA have a number of products, so you might be a customer of theirs already, but they have multiple products, and this one is called Insight. This is Rightmove Plus on steroids with rockets attached to it, lasers and glitter balls. It is absolutely amazing. It is, as I said, it's like Rightmove Plus on steroids. It's just amazing. So what we, at the risk, I have repeated myself, so I'll shut up and crack on. Now, the piece of kit, what we're using today, as I said, it's been provided free of charge by 20EA to myself. I must stress to you that I've not been paid by 20EA for the use of this product. This product can be used, it can be purchased on a town basis, a regional basis, and a national basis. And I just think this is, in terms of independent data on the property market, the best, the gold standard. Most of the larger estate agency chains use it. There's just nothing that is comparable to this data. We're going to be, as I said, looking at Stevenage. So what I'd like to do is let's crack on and go and have a look at Stevenage. If you are interested in this, then just contact 20EA, say you're interested in insights. For a town, it's very reasonable. I'm not going to mention numbers because I don't get paid commission, but I just think it's damn good value for money. And I know, Brian, you're a bit of a fanboy of it as well. Okay, so for the purposes of Stevenage, we're looking at the postcodes, which is SG1 and SG2. I know some of you probably have little tentacles that go out just beyond those two, but that's called Stevenage. And we're just going to spend a few minutes. So, Brian, as always, I'll just keep talking and you just cut across as you see fit. So we'll just start off with stock levels on the property market. So we're going to be having a look at, so here we are. So we've got one more day left, but here we go. So in Stevenage at the moment, in the two postcodes, 784 properties for sale. When you consider that it was 423 in July 22, that's almost a doubling of the properties. Well, it is, or it is a doubling of the properties that are on them. No, it's nearly a doubling. So, you know, if you are trying to get a property on at a realistic price, you can say, Mrs. Miggins, there are 90% more homes for sale in Stevenage today than there was a couple of years ago. And again, it's a classic demand and supply. So you can see the stock levels that are properties coming on the market. Let's go back and have a look at and see which agent in terms of new instructions. So we are the reason that this is one of the reasons this is great is this it goes back to 2019. Okay, so you're looking at 5.5 years bits of data. We're going to be looking at new instructions. We'll be looking at sales in a second. So we'll start off with patrols. And you can see here that, I mean, and again, the average price at 351. So patrols immediately 456. So immediately that's saying to me that patrols tend to deal with the middle to upper market. Wouldn't you say that? It's got to be, because the average price is a lot higher. So we will look at the posh end in a second. But you can see there that their market share for new instructions, that's quite spiky, isn't it?
It is, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I'm that I've not seen that a level of it's good month, bad month, good month, bad month. That's really interesting. You can see here that since 2024 patrols have been growing, but just generally that is the stock. That's what's happening to new instructions. Let's go and look at own homes. So again, if you here, we are probably looking an average about 8%, but so it looks like everyone's staying in their lane here, doesn't it? So
Yeah,
far.
but don't forget you're squeezing in a lot of stats on that graph at the bottom, so it's always going to look like someone's heart rate monitor during a
Okay, so let's go look at tailors. So tailors are part of the Connells sequence group, which we are good friends with. So tailors, again, a slight drifting down in the last couple of years, but nothing end of the world there. Let's go and look at Connells. Looks like you guys are around the 5 or 6% mark and now hovering around the 7 or 8% mark. So that's good. There you go. So again, Connell Sequence are really famous for their Boxing Day promotion where they hold back their listings. And that is, if you look at the national figures, Connells as a group, they have, January, December's is their best month because they put all their properties on the market in Boxing Day. What's your thoughts on the Boxing Day promotion? Are you a fan of it?
I understand it completely because it's rumored to be and proven to be a very good time online. And what will be interesting to see is whether you look at the graph on sales in the following 2 months to see if that's replicated by doing that. Because if it isn't, then why are they wasting their time?
Let's have a quick look at that then. Okay.
Yeah, kind of shows that it does.
That's not bad, is it? Let's just have a quick look. There you go. Not bad. Oh, there you go.
Well, if you look at the point you were looking at was I think the January spike there is
Well,
that
yeah,
is
it's the
that
December spike, and then it'll be Jan
spike?
Feb spikes.
Jan Feb, you should see a similar spike, and if so, there's a lesson for other agents who, if they're using stats, will understand that's a sensible thing to do.
Go and look at Heart. Okay. Agent Hybrid. So it looks like they start off in 19. It looks like they had a good April in 2020, which I think was lockdown. But again, probably just stay in the lane. Let's look at Hunters. Is that amazing that no one really seems Jeffrey Matthews slight drift off, not end of the world though. Let's look at William H. Brown, part of Connell Secret. Well done, guys. You're growing. That's nice to see. Purple Bricks, again matching. Mather Marshall, I think they're just called Mathers now. Let's have a look again. Homes and mortgages, rights. Okay, looks like they've been drifting there. Martin and Co. Not so great there. Mark Simon Estates. Your Move. Chandler's. They've had a good July. Belvoir. Calm. So Resi. Avocado must have just started. Let's see how well they're doing. There you go. So I'll tell you what we will just do. Let's just have a quick look at the last 12 months just to give them a fair, because Avocado are that new self-employed model. Let's have a quick look now. We'll just waiting for that to kick in. So William H. Brown, There's avocado. Yeah, it looks like you're doing it. It looks like you had a good tune there. Well done, guys. Right, we'll just have a quick look and go and look at the upper quartiles. Okay, there we go. Right then. So hold on, there we go. 351. So what we'll do is let's go look at the £500,000 mark. Let's just see who the movers and shakers are over 500,000. And that's interesting. Let's just take off the 500,000. That is interesting. It looks like William H. Brown, which is part of Connell's sequence, oh, hold on a second. We'll just do the 500,000 mark. So it looks like William H. Brown are very strong in that 500 to 600 mark. Oh, looks like the numbers have changed. My apologies. It was taking a bit of time to catch up. So it's obvious that put drills are the upper quartile agent here. That's
Yeah, and these guys are customers of ours, so I know them reasonably well, and they've got good leadership, strong team, and they are not specifically trying to design their business to be a niche in any of the markets. They're trying to help everybody, and they're very consistent in that respect. So yeah, it's a good business and well managed, well run.
So we'll just pull out the three quarters. I mean, that might just take, hold on a second. So it looks like Buttrell's is quite strong in the 6 to 3/4 million mark. So again, we'll just wait for that to catch up. There you go. So in the 600 to 5 million mark, Buttrell's seem to be the agent, although their market share does, and I mean, again, 20-30% is really good, but on a slight drift down there. So again, isn't it interesting? I think Bryan, this is the only occasion this is the second only occasion. Let me just remind myself. Okay, we'll just wait for that to catch up. Has there only ever been one occasion in a year and a half where the number one agent for, just pure volume has also,
All metrics, yeah.
yeah, has been the number one agent in the upper quartile, and that was Exeter. So Puttrell's, well done, Puttrell's, for being both a volume agent and also in the upper quartile as well. And the board agent. That's really, really rare. Anything on this before we go and have a look at the next set of stats?
No, all good.
Okay. So this particular graph, again, lots of data here, ladies and gentlemen. I won't apologize, but we've already done new instructions market share and new instruction percentage market share. And then there's your sales figures. So again, you might just want it to look at this. But there's a lot more gold in there than what you're missing. And so we're looking at the 30th of July 23 to the 29th of July 24. And Bryan, you just have a quick look at price changes and fallen throughs and withdrawals, just while I just explain to the ladies and gentlemen why. So fall through.
Zoom in, it's very difficult to see it.
Right, well, let's see if
My fault.
let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, is
Older.
that better?
There we go. That's good. Yeah, I need some binoculars.
Okay, it's old age, mate, I think.
Definitely, it's creeping up on you. Lifetime is like my laptop.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I must stress to you that there is some absolute gold in this, and the magic is the exchanged and withdrawal. So for no one that's watched the show before, let me explain. A property will only leave an estate agent's books for two reasons. One, she exchanges, or two, she withdraws. If a property falls through, it's still on your books, doesn't leave your ecosystem. So therefore, we can measure how many properties have left your books, have exchanged, which means you've been paid on, and how many have left your books that have been withdrawn that you've not been paid on. Okay, so we'll just have a quick, there we go. So, and there's a huge difference here. There is some agents here that are just heads and shoulders above other agents in Stevenage in terms of their efficiency to get property sold, get the person moved. Let me explain. William H. Brown in the last year have exchanged contracts on 51.5% of the properties that have left their books. Puttrell's at 65%, Own Homes at 74%, Connell's at 61%, Hunter's at 50%, Hart at 68%. The average is 54 or 54.8. So what that means is that if I was, say, Own Homes and I was going up against William H. Brown, I'm not criticizing anyone, I'm just using data that is this, but I'm just so 74.83 divided by 51.53 is that if I was own homes and I was going up against William H. Brown, I have a 45.2% greater chance of getting the property away. That is proper hardcore data, isn't it?
That is, yeah, that's phenomenal. Absolutely. I mean, imagine that saying to somebody, we've got nearly 50% higher probability of helping you than anybody else here. I mean,
I
if you're
mean,
not getting this out, if you're not looking at this and not using that once you've set, interrogated the data, then interpret it in terms of messaging, you know, you're lifting bigger weights than you need to.
and I think this is where the power of data comes in, is that remember, it is really hard at being an estate agent. And when you've got 10, 20, 30 competitors, hey, there's towns where there's a lot more. You need a secret weapon to enable you to prove that you are worth your fee. And to say to someone, there is independent data here that says you've got a 45% greater chance of moving with me, those are powerful stuff. Now, we don't know if owner homes have got, they might have poorer data on elsewhere, but we don't know. That's what we're looking at this show. But there is some amazing stats here and again, what is lovely to see is look at Hart at 68. I mean, absolutely fantastic. Well done, Hart, because, a lot of your sister offices tend to be middle of the road in terms of numbers. That's really, really good. So just shows you, it's not independent versus corporate. The best on this screen is, I know Hart would call themselves independent, but they are a corporate style estate agent. Um, I know the boss is there really well, but that is absolutely fantastic there with Hearts. But there's some, if your numbers are low, this is enabling you to get up your game. Let's just have a quick look and just see if there's
I
any.
mean, Chris, it's not corporate versus independent. It's agent versus agent in these
Yes.
towns. Okay, you've got a different livery on the front door, but actually it is still down to the person that's actually physically on the ground and how proactive they are, how they communicate, what words they use, what actions they take. That's determining this market share. Obviously, the corporates have sometimes there's an advantage because of X, Y, and Z, bigger leverage and so on. But other times there's a disadvantage. Having worked for both, it can be so. It's a relatively level playing field within certain parameters. It's not always an advantage that you're independent or corporate, or a disadvantage either. It's down to the individual people and how they go about their daily tasks.
Absolutely, absolutely, and some of the best numbers on there are corporate estate agents. So big round of applause. Those are the magic numbers. I mean, again, ladies and gentlemen, that one of the biggest firms in the UK had stats for years to show that their saleability rate was sort of like a million times better than the other large firms. But no, they never used the stats, and they had access to this. And the magic thing with stats is the ability to read the stats and pick the numbers that match your story and your narrative to prove that you're a better estate agent. Let's just see who agents are when it comes to price structures. 59%. So who's that? I think that's Hunters. Just shows you Hunters that they are reducing 6 in 10 homes, which is quite a lot. But the average is around 51. The average for the town is 39. Any fall throughs that are just screaming at there? Well, there you go. So who's that? There's a low fall through rate there. Homes and mortgages, fall through rate of 7.69. Well done, guys. I wonder, they're not clients of yours, are they? They might be a client of someone else who does reservation agreements. Those are cracking numbers, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, very good.
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, on the more traditional ones, Connell's at 18%. Well done on that one. Those are great numbers for fall through rates. Hart have a low fall through rate. Those are not bad, actually. The only one that's screaming at me, which is a higher fall through rate, is 37. Although that's not bad. That isn't normally the bigger agents have the higher fall through rate. So let's just look at price structure. Oh, sorry, that price structures. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Fall through rates. Okay. I mean, there's nothing there that screams at me. But anything on there before we move on?
Now you've got 5 in the top 10 that are above the average nationally, so that's the only issue that you'd look at. Tweaking
Yeah.
one or two of those is essential.
How long does it take to sell a property? So the blue line is the number of days. So we'll just have a look at the Stevenage figures. So this year it's taken 60 days for new instruction to sale agreed. Last year, oh, that's not come up. My apologies. And I'll have to sort that out in a second. On average, it's gone down. That would have been about 40, 45 on that. Let's go and have a look at the rental market. Okay, so first thing we've got to look at there is open rent. And you can see the growth of open rent has gone tremendously from 5% up to nearly 15%. That's a magnificent growth. And it's not good. I mean, interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, the number of landlords selling up has gone up by 43%, and the number of landlords buying has dropped by 20%, but they're different percentages of different numbers. The number of rental properties net is still growing. It's not growing as much as it was before COVID, but it's still growing. I
Think
think
about it logically, though, it makes total sense to me that why open rent have been so successful in an industry that's been dogged by regulation or stacked, regulation getting stacked and stacked, tax being stacked and stacked, the less money available for landlords to make profit. Has always been a financial decision only, not an emotional one when it comes to being a landlord, in most cases, in fact, overwhelmingly most cases. So they're there to leverage as much profit as they possibly can. Um, Open rent have seized that opportunity better than anybody else.
I mean, interestingly, I've analyzed the top 250. I just published this on my LinkedIn profile. So number one in the country at the moment is open rent. So I'm going from number two to 250. Okay. So the top, we'll call it top 250, excluding open rent in 2019 had 36.37% of the market. And in 2024, 34.35. So there's not a huge difference there. So meanwhile, open rents UK market share has gone from 6.7 to 15.2. So at the moment, I'm doing some analysis on the top 1,000, top 2,000, and top 5,000 to see where open rents market share has grown. It certainly hasn't been taken away from the bigger agents. Has it been coming from the smaller agents?
To me, it's a relatively straightforward understanding, and that is that when you take the rental market and you look at the occupied portfolio, the number of people that manage themselves versus the number that have the agent manage for them, you know, open rent is sitting in this category. Because if the overwhelming number of landlords believe they can look after their own property because they're single or two property portfolios, then they're going to look after themselves. That's where they're going to go.
It's the swap over between. I'm asking is this because if that is a pure growth. So they've obviously come from somewhere.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the public psyche, right? If you understand the dynamic of a landlord, which is financial, we all know that. So if someone's watching the pennies to maximize their profit, which is why they're a landlord in most places, and the vast majority, in my experience, of landlords believe they can look after their own property rather than paying an agent, a monthly management trip. Well, then if you can do that, open rent provides you a platform to self-manage. So there's your market that's been capitalized by that, by people who are watching the pennies, who understand that there's regulation issues, and that's why they should have it managed by an agent to protect them. But actually, a lot of people do it themselves. There's the market and there's the growth, especially as over the last 2, 3 years, well, and probably longer than that, the amount of profitability of a landlord is diminishing. The returns are diminishing. So they're trying to look at ways in which they can maximize that, whereas agents have been trying to push prices up and are constantly trying to get them into the managed portfolio, which is where it adds value and subscription
Yeah.
income and so on. So it is no surprise. What is a surprise is that more agents haven't adopted a similar approach, to use one to leverage market share to feed the other at some point, because inevitably, self-managing landlords, a proportion of those will switch over to fully managed once they realize it's such a massive pain in the proverbial to look after your property yourself.
Indeed, and ladies and gentlemen, agents of Stevenage, my daytime job is I help letting agents attract landlords to them by using various different marketing techniques to attract the attention, not using cheap fees or common users or landlords wanted, some insightful marketing which grabs the attention of open rent landlords and other landlords from other agents and attract people to you. So again, ladies and gentlemen, of Stevenage agents, if you are looking to grow your rental portfolio and you're looking for some guidance, then please do feel free to pick up the phone to me. I only work for one agent per town. Bryan, I know some of your clients use my services as well.
Yeah.
Again, I do this show completely free of charge. It takes me 4 hours a week. So I think, if you don't mind, I'm allowed a 2 minute little plug for my services. If you're a Stevenage letting agent and you want more landlords to be attracted to you without any hard sell, then please do pick up the
And
phone.
can I just say, obviously you're a legend, as we know, but agents use Chris, or at least stop putting out landlords wanted. Landlords know they can find tenants because they're reading national press that is telling them that there's 17 tenants per property. There's advice on the national media about if you're a tenant, how to position yourself to get the property because you've got immense competition. That's what landlords are hearing. They're hearing there's loads of tenants. So all we've got to do is stick it online and we'll let the property. So the issue is about management. And it's about the difficulties that people have when they think they can manage the property themselves and they get into regulatory issues and health and safety issues and so on and so on. But we don't talk about that as much up front. We say landlords wanted, we need landlords. Yeah, because you've got loads of tenants like everybody else has.
Yeah,
So change the message.
it's not what you want, it's what the client wants, and you've got to grab their attention and be interesting. Right, let's just have a quick look. So interestingly, Putrals are not, they're only in number 10, which again, big estate agent, not so big on the letting. So again, they might need some help, but let's just have a look. Agent hybrid. So again, this just gives us a flavour of the number of properties. This is not, we're not going to see huge changes in market share here because most of the stock is just recycling. But agent hybrid, own homes, your move, Belvoir, homes and mortgages, Mathers, Taylors, A Top, Putrals, Mark Simon. Let's go and look at Wrights, Hunters, Jeffrey Mather. We'll just go down to number 20. Connells, Platform.
I mean, it's a very, very close market, isn't it? That top 15, 16, well, top 17, really. They're all bunched up together.
Yeah, there's not, you can look at the numbers there. There's not like one big winner.
No.
That's, that's interesting to see. Okay, so that's the end of the letting. So final thoughts, Brian?
Inventory management there. We talk many times, and a lot of your guests do, and your commentators do, about opportunity. This is a great market. It's a huge opportunity, and we feel they're about to go into an even bigger purple patch than we've had for the last number of years. So really, it is a case of, if you haven't, just take a stop, take a pause, look at the results, get into the data, look at the stats, and what is your marketing message and your messaging now for your clients and new clients moving into the next 2 to 3 months, because you can really make a massive difference to your results for this year and into 2025. You're forward, planning your business to have growth into next year by what you do now, but also manage your stock, because if you've got a load of stock, you've got people in every single property who are trying to move, and ignore them at your peril, but give them the right advice. If you are trying to get a price reduction because someone told you you got to do it and you got to put a number on the board, but it is not going to make a difference to that property's journey, then don't do it. Recommend, stick to your guns, make the heavy recommendation. If someone says no, make it again the following week and give them feedback as you go, because eventually, if they're motivated, they will listen. Because everything's relative, right? What they drop on theirs, they'll gain on the one that they're trying to buy.
And it's like you said, you've got to help look at the whole deal, not how many houses we sold, it's how many people will get moved from one house to the next.
Yep.
And again, that's what good estate agency was. Some of us with grey hair, I know you haven't got an ounce of grey hair on yours, or you've got
I've got them on my chin.
Okay. I'm sure you have no colouring products on your top.
I don't have any colouring products.
No.
There's some grey in there somewhere.
Okay, go on, I'll give you that. Okay then. Well, Brian, thank you very much for your insight as always. We'll be inviting you back in a couple of months' time. More importantly, thank you for watching the UK Property Market Stat Show. We'll see you next week for week 31. Let's say goodbye, Brian.
Goodbye, Brian.
Ah!